This video documents the historical origins and current collapse of US dollar global dominance by examining the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference, where 44 nations agreed to make the US dollar the world's reserve currency backed by gold, creating 80 years of American financial supremacy that is now ending in real term. Where in July 1944, 44 nations met in New Hampshire and made a decision that would make America the richest country in history. They made the US dollar the world's money. For 80 years, this gave America a superpower no empire ever had, the ability to print money the entire world must use. That power is ending right now, and most Americans have no idea what's coming. Opening with a realization that US dollar being world reserve currency not being natural or inevitable, but rather the result of specific 1944 agreement at Bretton Woods Conference, creating system where every country needing dollars for international trade, giving America unprecedented advantage where printing dollars, creating global purchasing power, not just domestic, promising complete transparency, showing the exact mechanism of how dollar became king through a 3-week conference in 1944. Why this system benefiting America enormously for 80 years, creating wealth transfer from world to US. What's causing system collapse right now through de-dollarization, BRICS alternatives, and loss of confidence. And what this means for American wealth, we're losing reserve currency status, creating dramatic implications for every dollar. Americans' own teaching that this being potentially most important geopolitical economic shift in viewers' lifetime. Comment prompt before watching. Did you know 44 countries met in 1944 to make the dollar the world's currency? Comment yes or no. Most people have never heard of Bretton Woods. Establishing historical context where World War II ending July 1944 with Allied victory certain but Europe and Asia being completely destroyed economically, creating power vacuum. United States being only major economy undamaged with 50% of global GDP and 75% of world's monetary gold reserves, creating unprecedented economic dominance. And July 1st to 22nd, 1944, Bretton Woods Conference in New Hampshire, bringing 730 delegates from 44 allied nations to create new international monetary system, replacing failed pre-war gold standard. Explaining the 3 critical decisions made at Bretton Woods, where decision number 1, US dollar becomes world reserve currency with all currencies pegged to dollar at fixed exchange rates, creating dollar as intermediary for all international trade. Decision number 2, dollar backed by gold at $35 per ounce, where US promising to convert any dollars held by foreign governments into gold at fixed rate, creating gold backing credibility. And decision number 3, International Monetary Fund and World Bank, created where IMF managing currency exchange system and World Bank funding reconstruction, creating institutions, enforcing dollar system, teaching that these 3 decisions creating Bretton Woods system, where dollar becoming global money not through market choice but through international agreement backed by US military and economic dominance. The US promised to back every dollar with gold at $35 OZ in 1944. Guess what happened? They broke that promise in 1971. Comment if you knew this. Revealing the 5 superpowers dollar dominance gave America, where superpower number 1, print money. Buy real goods, where US printing dollars that other countries must accept for oil, commodities, and products, meaning America exchanging paper for real wealth, creating exorbitant privilege where trade deficits not mattering because dollars being wanted globally. Superpower number 2, run massive deficits without consequence, where normal countries running deficits facing currency collapse, but US running $2 trillion deficits annually for decades without crisis because world needing dollars regardless of US fiscal responsibility. Superpower number 3, finance wars through money printing, where US spending $8 trillion on Iraq and Afghanistan wars simply by printing dollars, while other nations requiring tax increases or austerity for war spending. Superpower number 4, weaponize the financial system, where a swift payment system and dollar dominance allowing the US to sanction any country, cutting them off from global trade, creating financial weapon more powerful than military, where Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela all facing dollar-based sanctions crippling their economies. And superpower number 5, export inflation to the world, where when US prints money creating inflation, this inflation being exported globally because all countries holding dollars as reserves, meaning American inflation problems becoming world's problem but American citizens getting first use of new money before it devalues. Teaching that these 5 advantages explaining why America becoming richest country in history, were ability to print world's money being ultimate competitive advantage, creating wealth transfer from globe to us. America can print money and the world has to accept it. This exorbitant privilege has made the US rich for 80 years. Did you know about this? Comment. Documenting the 1971 Nixon shock, where Bretton Woods system containing fatal flaw being that US printing more dollars than gold reserves could back, creating growing redemption pressure. France under Charles de Gaulle beginning converting dollars to gold 1965-1971. sending Navy ships to New York to physically collect gold bars, recognizing us over. In August 15, 1971, President Nixon closing gold window, refusing to convert dollars to gold, breaking Bretton Woods promise, unilaterally ending gold backing forever. Teaching that 1971 marking end of Bretton Woods but not end of dollar dominance, where dollar remaining world reserve currency despite no gold backing because of three factors: global oil trade requiring dollars, petrodollar system, existing infrastructure and momentum, all banks using dollar already, and U.S. military guaranteeing system continuation through force, creating Bretton Woods system from 1971, where dollar being backed not by gold but by military power and network effects, explaining that Nixon shock being critical, turning point where dollar going from as good as gold to pure fiat currency backed only by confidence and force, teaching that current system being 53 years of pure fiat dollar, far longer than gold backed period. 1971. Nixon ended gold backing. The dollar has been pure paper for 53 years, and most people don't know this. Changed everything. Comment, knew this or news to me. Revealing the current collapse through 7 documented trends, where trend number 1, BRICS de-dollarization with Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa creating alternative payment systems avoiding dollars, where BRICS controlling 36% of global GDP and expanding membership reducing dollar necessity. Trend number 2, central banks selling U.S. treasuries, where China reducing treasury holdings from $1.3 trillion peak to $775 billion, demonstrating declining confidence in dollar debt. Trend number 3, gold accumulation by central banks, where central banks buying 1,000 plus tons annually, highest rates since 1971, suggesting preparation for post-dollar system. Trend number 4, alternative payment systems, where China's SIPs and Enbridge systems enabling yuan settlement bypassing SWIFT and dollars. Trend number 5, yuan-denominated oil trade, where Saudi Arabia accepting yuan for oil sales, breaking petro-dollar monopoly for first time since 1974. Trend number 6, declining dollar share of reserves, where dollar falling from 72% of global reserves 1999 to 58% 2024, demonstrating steady erosion. And trend number 7, weaponization backlash, where U.S. sanctions on Russia, pushing many nations to reduce dollar dependence, fearing becoming next sanction target. Teaching that these 7 trends being documented present tense happening, creating not a theoretical future but actual ongoing collapse. Dollar fell from 72% of global reserves 1999 to 58% 2024. That's a 14-point drop in 25 years. The decline is accelerating. Comment if this surprises you. Explaining what collapse means for average Americans through 5 direct impacts, where impact number 1, inflation getting worse. We're losing reserve currency status, meaning losing ability to export, inflation making domestic inflation more severe and persistence. Impact number 2, higher interest rates, where reduced global demand for treasuries requiring higher yields to attract buyers, meaning higher mortgage rates, car loans and credit card rates for Americans. Impact number 3, lower living standards, where reduced purchasing power and higher costs, decreasing standard of living as is losing ability to buy real goods with printed paper. Impact number 4, government funding crisis, where federal government requiring actual fiscal discipline, unable to print unlimited dollars, forcing either massive spending cuts or tax increases. And impact number 5, geopolitical decline, where financial power being foundation of military power, teaching that losing monetary dominance, preceding loss of military dominance as empire cycle completes, providing specific parallel to British pound 1980-1950, showing that LB lost reserve currency status over 30-year period from WWII aftermath through World War II and Bretton Woods, with British citizens experiencing persistent inflation, economic decline, loss of empire, and reduced global influence, teaching that reserve currency loss not being sudden crash but rather 20 to 40-year decline, creating generational wealth transfer. The British pound lost reserve status 1918 to 1950. It took 30 years. The US dollar is following the same path. This will define your financial life. Comment if this reframes everything. Presenting millionaire response through conversations with 8 wealthy individuals about dollar collapse, where all 8 understanding